Hello and welcome everyone to Wright Park once again for another Cowboy Band concert. We're very glad to see you. It's so hard to believe that we're already at our first Tuesday in July. Summer's flying, unfortunately, and I'm trying not to look at all the school supplies in Walmart every time I step in, so I know many of us on stage are in agreement with that. So hopefully you're enjoying your summer, and we have several concerts left to perform for you. Tonight's concert is going to feature a lot of fun film scores and some sci-fi and fantasy music. So if you're into that genre, hopefully you really enjoy this music this evening. Some new pieces for sure. We're going to start tonight with how we start every concert, with the playing of our national anthem. So if you would please rise as you are able and direct your attention to our American flag, followed by the playing of our state song, Home on the Range. We'd like to open this evening's concert with a piece by one of America's most prolific march composers. Although Carl King wrote 300 works during a half-century of composing, he rarely ran out of notes. He did, however, run out of titles and presumably asked Barnhouse publishers to name this march and 15 others, which he wrote in 1955. The marches were placed in an album called Liberty March Folio, with a picture of the Statue of Liberty on the cover, and each was given a patriotic world peace title in accordance with world events in Geneva, Korea, and the United States at the time. Here is Carl King's march, Bonds of Unity. And please don't forget, we have popsicles over here in this cooler if you'd like. Well, our next piece is from a film score from 1994 and is part of one of the most iconic franchises in the science fiction genre. The first 6 films make up the original series era, spanning from 1979 to 1991, all including a crew led by Captain James T. Kirk. And this 7th film began the Next Generation era, under the leadership of Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The musical score for the 1994 film Star Trek Generations was composed by Dennis McCarthy, who was the first composer to work on both the franchise's television series projects and film scores. In the film, Captain Picard of the USS Enterprise D joins forces with Captain Kirk to stop the villain Dr. Tolian Saran from destroying a planetary system in his attempt to return to an extra-dimensional realm known as the Nexus. We hope you enjoy the woodwind trills and strong brass fanfares and Jay Bocook's arrangement of Theme from Star Trek Generations. And this next piece pays homage to the American Community Band. The title, Country Bandstand, suggests the sounds and history of the traditional town square with its open-air gazebo or bandstand, which is so common in small-town America. The first movement we will be playing, Chorale, is the second movement, and a chorale setting of the folk hymn Vernon, which was written by Umzi Chapin, a songwriter, bookseller, and master in the singing school system that was so common throughout early 19th century America. The meter has been changed to 3/4 time, however, while the tune itself has been extensively reharmonized to include numerous moving lines. After the chorale, we will be playing the first movement, March, which is based on the folk song Bachelor's Hall. The text of the song speaks of the carefree life of a bachelor and scorns the bonds of matrimony. Here are movements 2 and 1 of Country Bandstand. There will be a slight pause in between movements. Thank you so much. Up next is a nice chorale written by Richard Saucedo, who is constantly in demand as an adjudicator, clinician, and guest conductor. He composed this piece for younger bands to have an opportunity to work on lyric playing and expression. We hope you enjoy the flowing lines and gorgeous harmonies in this piece. Here is Looking Past the Shadows. Who's ready for a children's march this evening? We are. Are you guys ready? Kids, come on down. Katie's ready. Don't forget, you get to keep your flag when we're done. Hope you enjoyed tonight's children's march. This is a tune you've all heard at every one of our concerts, actually. Only this time it isn't played like a chorale. James Barnes composed this piece to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Kansas Bandmasters Association in 2022. It was premiered in February 2022 by the KBA, Kansas Intercollegiate Band, at the KMEA convention in Wichita. This march is special to Kansas musicians because Barnes decided to use our beautiful state song, Home on the Range, as the trio and the final section. When we arrive at the trio, see if you can pick out which instruments are playing the recognizable melodies. And now the kids are ready, so here is Heart of America. Wonderful job, kids. Thank you so much. Next, we present to you another film score from another fantasy series, which will take us to Mordor. The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, was released in 2002, the film anyway, and was based on 1954's The Two Towers, which is the second volume of the novel by J.R.R. Tolkien. This arrangement of Howard Shore's music by Douglas E. Wagner features Rohan, Fourth Eorlingus, The March of the Ents, Evenstar, and Gollum's Song. Here is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. We were talking in rehearsal last night. This music's getting me in the mood for a movie marathon, especially since it's summertime. Staying up late, no alarm the next day, if you're a teacher anyway. We continue on with one of my all-time favorite show themes from any genre. The Mandalorian, aka Star Wars The Mandalorian, is an American space western series created by the amazing Jon Favreau for the streaming service Disney Plus in 2019. Pedro Pascal stars as the title character, a lone bounty hunter who protects the child Grogu from remnant Imperial forces. The iconic score for The Mandalorian was created by composer Ludwig Göransson, who won an Emmy for his work on the series. The main theme blends Western film aesthetics with a breathy tribal bass recorder, synthetic beats, and a driving drum rhythm. We hope you enjoy Paul Murtha's arrangement of this epic music from The Mandalorian. And don't forget, this is the way. Give it up for Maritza on the glockenspiel, everybody. Very tasteful finish to that tune. Up next is a unique march which features a fanfare style from our trumpets, horns, and saxophones in the opening. The main melody is passed around to all members of the band so nobody gets bored. Here is Legacy March by Steve Hodges. Before we close out our concert with a final piece, it's time for our distance contest. So if we have anyone here in attendance tonight that is not from Dodge City or Ford County, we would love to recognize you. Thank you for traveling. Could you put your hand in the air if you are a Kansas resident, but you don't live in Ford County? Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Do we have anyone from outside of the state of Kansas here tonight? Wonderful. We got two I see so far on this half. Anyone on this half over here? Oh, very good. Let's start with this crowd right over here. Where are you all from? What, say that again? Atlanta. Oh, Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you guys are having a good time. Atlanta. And then over here, yes sir, in the hat? South Dakota. Wonderful. Very good. That's pretty far still. And then someone back there. Oh, in the grass. Very good. Where are y'all from? Florida. Fantastic. Slightly farther than Atlanta. Thank y'all are the winners this evening. We're so glad that you're here. It's a wonderful time of year to travel, obviously, and see good old Dodge City. So hope that you're having a grand old time. We're going to close tonight with one more band arrangement of several movie themes. It's been enjoyable showcasing several wonderful works from the science fiction and fantasy genres with you all this evening. And we will wrap up tonight featuring who I like to call the GOAT of film scores. Y'all can guess who that is. John Williams' music is enduring, and many of his themes hold a special place in our hearts. His music is instantly recognizable, and his ability to layer character themes throughout his scores is incredibly impressive and entertaining. Our arrangement of John Williams' movie adventures includes the Star Wars main title, Duel of the Fates from Star Wars, theme from Jurassic Park, and finally, theme from E.T., Extraterrestrial. Thanks again for being with us this evening. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your night. You made it.